Relationships. I talk about this all the time in real estate and how this really is the silver bullet to success in real estate. Real estate is all about listing properties. The person who lists, or the agent that lists the most properties, at the end of the day makes the most money. Because once you have the listings, the sales process, you just flow through that. It kind of takes care of itself with what you need to do and the properties sell. But if you don't have the listings, you never make that commission. So how do we get the listings? It's the number one thing agents need to focus on the most. And what we spend most of our time during the week focusing on is actually trying to get in front of potential sellers and getting them to sign up their properties for sale with us and our agency. And why relationship is so important is because a strong relationship with a potential customer builds trust. And people love to work with other people that they know, like, and trust, and especially in real estate. Because when it comes to selling your home, a home to someone or a property to someone is usually either their most valuable asset or very high up there with one of their most valuable assets. So the person or the agent that they choose to sell with is a really, really important decision. And the biggest influencer on that decision is how much they trust that person. How much they trust that person really depends on the relationship that they have with that person. It's not just that, it's also results and profile, but the length of time and the amount of times that an agent has been in touch with someone prior to them making the decision about putting their property on the market is what strengthens the relationship. So I wanted to talk about the different activities because there's so many ways that you can be in touch with people out in the marketplace. Different types of communication, such as text, email, face-to-face meeting, letter, letterbox drop, social media. Those are some of the main ones. There are others, but they're all forms of prospecting and advertising. Every time a customer sees your name or you interact with them, what it does is it actually strengthens the relationship between you and the customer just that little bit more. And if you can imagine a customer relationship on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being that potential customer doesn't even know your name. If I was to knock on their door, or someone, let's take me for an example as an agent. If someone knocked on a door in my area and said, "Who's Dan Lee?" and the person at the front door said, "No idea." My relationship with that person is a 1 out of 10. Really, it's a 0 out of 10, but let's call it 1. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, the 10 out of 10, someone knocks on the door and says, "Who's Dan Lee?" And they say, "Dan Lee, he's a real estate agent, he works at this company, great guy, I've done business with him before, or he's serviced me before. Yeah, we keep in regular contact, love that bloke. If I ever go to sell, I'm gonna be calling Dan Lee." Now that is a 10 out of 10 relationship with a potential client that may one day sell. Now, wouldn't it be nice if everyone in our area thought that about us? That we were a 10 out of 10. If someone asked them who we were, they knew exactly who we were, they spoke highly of us, and they said, "I would do business with them one day in the future." So really what you want to think about with your marketplace is every single owner of a property is one day, at some point, a customer. At some point, everyone sells their home. On average, in Australia, it's every 7 years that a home sells. Different areas are obviously different, and some people stay in their house for 50 years, yes, but lots of people move around all the time, every 2-3 years. So the average is 7. So if you've got an area of 2,000 homes. Your goal as an agent, my goal as an agent when I was out there in the marketplace, and this is the strategy that I give every agent, because I know it works. I did it myself, and I've taught other people to do it. And every time they do this properly, I see it work, and I see these agents become really successful. But it takes time. See, when you enter a new area as an agent, you have 0 relationships. You may know some neighbors and stuff if you grew up in the area, but other than that, no one knows who you are and you have 0 profile. So no one's gonna ever call you. You're never gonna have someone just call your phone and go, "Sell my house." just because you posted something on Facebook saying you're a real estate agent. No one knows you, no one cares. And you're not going to get that care from people until you've cared about them. So what does caring about them look like? Well, it starts with building a relationship in any possible way. And this is why I go on and on about how important door knocking and cold calling is. And it's not for the reason of just knocking on a door or making a cold call and finding someone at that exact perfect time when they're about to sell. And you make the call and you say, hey, my name's Dan Lee from Plum Property. I'm just wondering if you're looking to sell. And they say, oh, great timing. I'm so glad a real estate agent just called me. I do need to sell my house. I'm about to put it on the market next week. Can you come over and let's get that paperwork sorted out? That's never gonna happen. It actually just never happens. In fact, in my entire career, I've made 150,000 plus cold calls in my life. And I think that's happened maybe once. Maybe once. I remember one time it happened, but I already knew the customer. I'd been in touch with them for a couple of years and I called them up. So it wasn't a cold call, right? They knew who I was. Now a cold call is when you're at a 1 out of 10 on the relationship scale. So you're calling someone up and you're letting them know that you're providing information in the street about properties and would this customer like an update on their property, and you're trying to get your foot in the door. At that point in time, you are a 1 out of 10. If you manage to get that appraisal on the call, if you're able to go over and meet the client and see them face to face, your relationship is going to be slightly more stronger than if the person agrees to having a curbside appraisal where you don't actually go over and meet them. So it's always important to try and get your foot in the door to meet the client. Because once you meet someone, you become memorable. If you never meet them, you just talk to them over the phone, you send them some info, you're not memorable, but at least it's something. So when we're making cold calls or door knocks, really we're just trying to establish that very first relationship. We're planting that seed whereby over time, we're gonna take that relationship from a 1 out of 10 to an 8 to 10 out of 10. Because when you're an 8 to 10 out of 10 relationship with anyone in the area and you're a real estate agent, the chances of you getting a call when that person's ready to sell is so high. It's probably 80% chance they're gonna give you a ring and say, come over, I need to talk to you about selling my house. That's how you get the opportunities to do it. Okay, so when we first get that appraisal, if it's just sending them some information over the phone to their email or their letterbox and you never meet them, I would say that's taking your relationship from a 1 to a 2, not very much. And if I knocked on that person's door the very next day after you sent that information and they'd seen your name and they saw the information, I knocked on their door the next day and I said, do you know this agent? The owner would probably say, oh yeah, that agent sent me some information. That's a real estate agent, they sent me some information yesterday. But if I asked them a month later who it is, they'd probably already forgotten because the relationship isn't very strong yet. If you go in and meet the client at their home and you walk around and you get to know them, you talk about life and you give, you praise their house and you spend some time there, 15, 20 minutes is all it takes. The relationship's probably at that point gone from a 1 to a 3.5 or 4. And I could knock on that door months later and say, hey, do you know who this agent is? And they would say, oh yeah, absolutely. They came through my home a couple of months ago. And so the relationship's a lot stronger because they actually met you, they got to know you a little bit, they got a vibe of your personality. So that's why getting in front of people is so very important. Now, once we've got that initial chance to build a relationship with someone in their area, it's really important to give them touch points. In this industry, we talk about 10 touch points a year. A touch point can be a letter in the mail, it can be a quarterly market report, it can be a phone call, it can be a text message, but it's all the different lines of communication that you can do where you're reaching out to that client and you're providing them with either a catch-up call to see if they need anything or a prompt to contact you if they need anything, or you're giving them some information about something relevant in their area. That could be something like a house that just sold in their street, right? And this is a classic task that agents do is you just listed, just called letters and calls, right? As soon as you sell something in the street, let everyone in the street know about it. Now, if you've appraised anyone in that street already, when you go and touch base with them and say, hey, I just sold this house, that's another little touch point. So let's say your relationship was at a 3 because you'd been through someone's house, you'd given them an update on their house. They said they're not selling yet and there's no business for now, and you say, absolutely fine. I just appreciate you letting me keep in touch. And then a couple of months later, you sell a house in that street and you call that previous appraisal owner up and you say, hey, Bob, I'm just giving you a call. It's Dan Lee from Plum Property. They'll say, oh, Dan, how are you? I saw you had a house for sale on the street. Yeah, exactly. That's why I was just giving you a call. I just wanted to let you know what it sold for and what happened in the campaign. At this stage, they kind of know who you are. You start having a chat. It's a warm, fuzzy conversation. You give them information about what happened with the sale, and that's it, basically. You might finish the call with, hey, did you need another update or are you all good for now? Most of the time, they're gonna say, mate, I'm all good for now. We're not selling for now, but I'll keep you in mind if I ever do. Now, what I've just done there with that call is I've gone from a stage 3 relationship to a stage 4. Now he knows me a little bit better. Now I've got a slightly more chance that this person will call me when they're gonna sell. And I'm gonna keep touching base with this person on and on and on and on and on over time, 10 different times a year, possibly 2 calls, 3 letters in the mail, 4 quarterly reports sent to email and post, possibly a month newsletter in the bulk email send out. So you got to put together like a nurturing program whereby people that know you and like you and that you've created a relationship are getting ongoing information about what's going on in that area. And then over time, let's go forward 2 years later now. So originally 2 years ago, I did an initial appraisal for Bob on Smith Street. 2 months later, I sell a house on Smith Street. I let everyone know, including Bob, and have another call. I moved from a 3 to a 4. And then Bob gets my quarterly market reports every quarter and an email every month. Go forward another year. I'm now from a 4 to a 6 with Bob. He definitely knows who I am now. If anyone asks, who's Dan Lee? Bob can say, Dan Lee, yeah, he's a real estate agent up the road. He's never transacted or done business with me, but he knows who I am. He's familiar with what I'm doing. Now when Bob drives around the streets and he sees my signboards and my face on it, he knows that's Dan Lee. That's the guy that's come through my house. He's a good agent. He's doing stuff in the area. So now he's actually like recognizing my advertising in the area. If I've got a billboard up or something like that, he's driving past and go, wow, Dan Lee's doing well. My relationship's going from a 6 to a 7 now after almost 2 years. He continues to get calls from me and my team saying, hey, this sold in your area. Would you like an update? Blah, blah, blah. Text messages about other interesting information relative to him and his property. Letters in the mail, letterbox drops. After 2 years of this and being touched 20 to 30 times in different areas of communication and seeing my advertising, my relationship's now a 7.5 out of 10. My chance of getting called in when Bob comes to decide I'm gonna sell my house is so high. And what puts it to a 9 or a 10 is once you've then done a transaction with them as well. So if Bob sells his house with me, I do a really good job, he's stoked with the price, and the whole transaction was really good, that's a 9 out of 10. Or if a buyer buys off you as an agent and you provide exceptional service, they're really happy with the way you treated them and the wholesale to them was exceptional, and then you keep in touch, you're a 9 or a 10 to those people. And all you gotta do from that point, it's so easy. When you're a 9 or when you're a 7 to a 10, out of 10. All you gotta do is literally give them a call every 6 months for 20 seconds. Just, g'day Bob, it's Dan Lee, your favorite real estate agent. I was just giving you a call. I hope everything's well. Yep, blah, 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 blah. Mate, look, I'm just calling to see if you know anyone that's looking to sell their property in the area. Are you looking to do anything? I'm just here to provide exceptional service and wanted to see if you can help me out. And when you're an 8 out of 10, on the relationship scale, people want to help you. Like, this guy's just an absolute legend. He's working hard. Like, people want to help you when they really like you and trust you and you've done good things for them. So the whole goal in real estate is to get to that 9, 10 out of 10 with every customer, right? Or at least to a 7. You want to get to a 7 out of 10, because at a 7 out of 10, you're getting called in for listing presentations. And that's where you make a lot of money in real estate.